Today we're talking about John Getrew. You've probably seen him on the internet because he got in trouble. I'm not going to give you all the details. Greg, you do that.
Yeah, so let's tell you, first of all, a lot of people ask us about this. This video of a guy who was arrested or questioned 45 years after a murder is the video we're going to cover today. The more important part is we're covering the 2018 interview by a detective named Cortez. And this was provided to us by the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office. Thank you, Abigail, for giving us this, because we can only find little snippets of this. And this is such a beautiful interrogation, we didn't want to make a mess of it. So that's what we got.
Did you ever work as a security guard?
Yes, I worked at Ray Kim.
What's that?
Ray Kim.
Ray Kim?
Yeah, Ray Kim.
Oh, Ray Kim?
Yeah, it was
okay.
in Redwood City.
Okay.
And, for about 6 months, I guess it was.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever think about applying for law enforcement or that type of thing?
I thought about it, but I didn't.
Okay.
I applied to fire department, but that was as far as it went.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you had never been arrested. And I found out something happened in Germany.
Okay,
can you tell me about that?
I was arrested in Germany.
Okay, what happened with that? Can you tell me about that?
I was accused of murder.
Okay.
I spent 6 years of a 10-year sentence in jail.
Oh, wow.
In a juvenile jail.
So this was as you were juvenile at the time?
Yeah, this is when I was,
about how old do you think you were when this happened?
Just out of high school.
Okay, right out of high school, and then they accused you as a juvenile.
Yeah, as a juvenile.
Okay.
With a girl.
Okay.
And that was it.
Okay. Obviously you talked to the authorities there about what happened, right?
Yeah, I was investigated by the authorities.
Oh.
Not by the military.
By the German authorities?
Yeah, German police.
Okay. Did this incident happen on the base? Or
in June, off the base.
Off the base, okay.
But in a military housing area.
And so you spent actually 6 years in prison?
Something like that.
Wow. And then how, after you were released, what happened?
I just was dropped off at McGuire Air Force Base, and my father picked me up, and that was it.
That was it? You came back to the United
States? Never
States?
heard a word from him. Nothing.
Okay.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, I hate to go first on this one because there's so much I want to talk about and I don't want to cover it all. There's just so much here. But yeah, Mark, one of the things that I immediately thought of when I saw this was, yeah, but no, but yeah, but no. You always talk about with Vicky Pollard because he does that. He starts to go, yeah, but no. And I think it's because he has thought up to now what the question is going to be, and he's prepared an answer for it. And he gets ready to answer in a certain way and then realizes a different question than he's asked. What is going to be interesting to watch is this guy's 74, I believe. He's going to have less movement than a lot of people we usually see who are on the hot seat, number one. And number two, he's probably going to have some other behaviors that we haven't seen before. I always like it when we find one that hasn't. And I just was saying in the break, Scott stitched this sound to this video. I think he did a fantastic job because they were separate. And what a great video this thing is. Right out of the gate, if you listen to this cop, and if you're paying attention to this and listen through the entire thing, watch the cop keep score when he sniffs. Trump does it sometimes, but you'll hear him do it when certain key points hit when a guy's lying outright. And you'll see it when this guy's lying and him doing it. I see it in board meetings. I was actually in a board meeting a few weeks ago where the guy who owned the company is sitting close to me. And whenever somebody said something that he was objectionable to, I heard him go, and I was like, yep, okay, that guy's about to get it. So pay attention when you're doing this to how a person's keeping track, whether it's Trump or somebody else. Then I love I was arrested in Germany. If you only stopped right there when he said, oh, yeah, I was arrested in Germany, you might think he was arrested for stealing candy. It was that calm, that laid back, not much to it. We don't expect that. We expect a guy to be more, I did something wrong. I went to prison. Maybe I was wrongly convicted, but not, I went to prison. And just casually like that. Now, I always say that I think humans go through a cycle, and I'll run through those very quickly and get to the one that I think he's in. And those are, I think you start off as idealistic, then you become realistic. So in your 20s, the world's your oyster. Your 30s, you become realistic. I'm only good at some things, but I'm really good at them. And you paint and paint and paint till you paint yourself in the corner in your 40s, and you're doing the same thing over and over and over. And then you get pessimistic. And then on the backside of that, opportunistic, saying, well, there's still things I can do. And then you get later in your life, you start to rationalize all the things you have done and why you've done them and why they come together. And you get in a glide path waiting for the end into fatalistic. And what I think we're seeing here is a guy who has rationalized the things he's done to now. And he frames this whole incident. The reason I say that is he frames this whole incident, opens with accused, with that left hand flying off. And then he is illustrating out of frame, and there's not him saying I was falsely accused or convicted. It's non-committal. I was no kind of commitment in here. He says I was accused, not that I was wrongly accused. This is going to force the interrogator to dig much deeper, and this interrogator is going to have to work harder now to get information because he's giving an answer, but it's like pulling teeth to get facts. Remember, I'll say a lot of times that people are being truthful but not honest. This is truthful but not honest. He doesn't give you any details. And the reason people do that often in interrogation, I've seen this guy 100 times, is plausible deniability. Because when I go back and say, bam, you said this, he'll be like, well, no, I didn't say exactly that. And so he's a rules lawyer and he's trying to work the system. Right out of the gate, I don't trust the guy. Aside from the fact he's been in prison for killing a young girl, I don't trust him any further than I can see him. And that's not very far. Mark, what do you see?
Yeah, look, really, really great points there, Greg. The subject here is super relaxed in many ways, easy going. His answers on the surface are, really quite simple. And without a really good interrogator there, which I believe we really do have here, and this is going to be lovely, by the way. If you just want to watch this for seeing a great interrogator and a great style, then watch this. But if you didn't have the questions that he's asking, when he's asking them, how he's asking them, you'd have somebody here who just looks like an old guy who's, hanging out and not being deceptive in any way whatsoever. It would be absolutely fine, as a general. And that to say, look, there are some people out there that if we watch film of them, unless they're being asked the right questions in the right way, it doesn't get the reactions that we need to see to go, well, hang on, there's deception there. If they've been given an easy time, they're going to come across as easygoing. And this guy is trying to be easygoing, but he's being given a tougher time than, again, the style and the feeling of the interrogator gets across. Because this interrogator is easygoing and smooth, and looks like he's giving him an easy time. He's giving him a really hard time here. Did you ever work as a security guard, he says? And the subject here shakes his head and then has a bit of an aggressive chin raise. He goes. And then he says, yes, I worked at Raychem. So he goes directly from a clear no to a very clear, okay, I'm going to have to answer that one. Yes, I worked at Raychem.
The mainstream media is not broken at all. It is functioning exactly as it was designed. It exists to manipulate you, to divide you, to feed you fear and outrage and distraction while pretending all of that is information. And most people are still swallowing it like it's gospel. I've spent years studying propaganda and psychological operations and human behavior, and I will tell you this plainly. The media is not here to tell you the truth. It's here to shape your truth without you even realizing it. Every network, every outlet, left or right or center, they are all playing the exact same game. Keep you emotionally hijacked, cognitively blind, and addicted to narratives engineered by people who have zero interest in informing you at all. So they manufacture a bunch of division. They amplify lies and they bury stories that threaten their control. This is not journalism. This is mass psychological warfare. This is why we use ground news. It is not just a news app. It is a tactical weapon for seeing through all this fog. Ground news pulls in all these stories from every source, whether it's liberal or conservative or state-run, corporate-owned, billionaire-owned, and they show you these biases and the ownership of who owns the outlet that wrote that article, the spin. And then finally, my favorite is what is being left out of that article. I always talk about let's look for what's missing. They do that at ground news. So you're going to watch these narratives fracture in real time. You're going to be able to spot manipulation like it is lit up in neon. And once you see how disgustingly coordinated all this stuff is, you're not going to be able to unsee it. The behavior panel never really partners with very many brands, but Ground News is way different. It puts the power back into people's hands instead of the news. So go to ground.news/TBP, scan the QR code, or hit the link in the description. We've got you 40% off of the same plan that we use. So don't keep trusting the people reading scripts for billionaires. Stop being programmed and start seeing the depth of what is actually going on.
And the interviewer at that point, I don't know whether he doesn't quite hear him or he pretends to not hear him, but he kind of pretends or doesn't hear him a couple of times. And I'm sure his hearing's pretty good. He's maybe getting him to say it a couple of times. There's probably something around Raychem and that job, and having that job of security guard is maybe a big feature here. So he's been caught immediately there, I would say. That's really interesting. And last point here, Greg, which is your point again, failing to say that you were imprisoned for murder in a foreign country, that's a big, I mean, listen.
Right out of high school.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if I ended up in an interview room and they said, listen, have you been charged with anything? And, you know, I might want to say, actually, you know, I was imprisoned for murder in Germany. So I just want to get that out there because I just want to let you, because it's a fairly large thing to leave out. Imprisoned at a young age in Germany, what did he do? 6 years of a possible 10 for that. So interesting that he's decided not to talk about that at all. Chase, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, y'all covered a ton already here. The biggest thing that stood out to me was no curiosity and no pushback. He never asked why he's there. He doesn't push back. He just walks this little hallway that he's being asked to. When somebody avoids even just basic questions about their own detainment, that's not real. It is loaded silence. His whole thing is he's pretty stiff here. He looks relaxed overall. If you squint your eyes, it looks like a relaxed person, but you can hear him controlling his breathing. He's tight and restrained. And there's some real soft language. The accused of murder there that you mentioned, it's a buffer. And maybe he's just waiting to see what the reaction is. But imagine talking about that in an emotionless way. Not, I was falsely accused, falsely imprisoned. None of that. Just the same way you'd order hot chicken in Nashville. I think the detective might be leaning in too early. There's a possibility. But granted, I'm just looking at this one clip without the entirety of the context. You kind of want to save that big lean in for the end when you want the monologue, but maybe there's another plan in place. I didn't see it. You want him to relax. But so what's really missing, and I'm always looking for what's missing, is why am I here? Why are you asking me this? Why do I have to answer these questions? What's going on? When someone doesn't do that, that is in my mind, maybe one of the top 3 red flags of history of all time. When they're coming in there and they just comply and comply and comply and never ask, hey, what's going on? What about these questions we're doing here? This guy lived a double life for like 50 years with no behavioral leakage. Think about this. He would go straight from a murder right into like cooking his family dinner and stuff. No behavioral leakage, just pure compartmentalization, which we're going to see here in just a few minutes. Scott?
Yeah, I think you leaked out a part where you said he would go home from a murder and then cook and do all that stuff, because I think this detective is so excited. That's why you're seeing that lean in early. He knows he's got him one. He knows he's got him one here. So I think he's on the impression that because he knew this guy had been in prison in Germany, he knew about all that, and he knows why this guy is in trouble now. So what does that tell you? He's figuring there's something in between there as well. So sorry, Chase, I shouldn't let that. I should have waited on that, but that's what I got in my notes though. So he's pretty sure he's got him one here. And so I think it's the excitement of it that is why he feels it looks like he's doing the clothes right there already, because he's, and we'll see him do other things that show us that as well. Now when John, I want to call him just or something horrible since he's such a bad guy, but when he is illustrating, those illustrators seem to be right on the money. And they're some, but when he does, they're a little bit big as he goes through there. So otherwise, he's just sitting there, like whatever he's sitting there like. But other times when he starts illustrating, they get really big. The reason we're going to be hearing these really loud noises, like he pulls a Kleenex out, and we hear it sounds like the roof is coming in, and then he scratches on the side of the table, and
That's
that
only
sounds
to
really,
you. You're the only one that hears those things.
no,
That's pretty
well,
loud. This is pretty loud.
normally that would be the case, but now now you get to live like I live, because when you pay attention to this, you'll hear them, because the recorder is sitting on the table. So that was the problem I was having with it, was locking up that video with the recorder on the table, and they're not running at the same speed. It's a difference in speed, not very much. I mean, it's a small difference, but that's why, because it's a condenser mic on this little tiny recorder that the detective is using. So that's why it sounds that way. So when he says, "Did you apply for law enforcement? Do you want to be a cop?" He stretches his legs after that, and he's explaining his failure not to be able to do that, because he talks about how he went and tried to become a firefighter, right? But those little motions he's moving, most everyone will do something like that. Like if you say, "Well, did you go to the movies?" "Well, we went to the movies, but it was just too long." You'll do something, and then after that, you'll do your complacent look or whatever it's going to be. So those kind of movements make sense there. There's nothing that really shows deceit or anything in that part of it. But when he's busted lying, when he says, "So you said you'd never been arrested," that's pretty interesting, because right then he freezes, and we see the stress start to rise up on him. So that's when he starts rubbing the sides of the chair. So, which I thought was pretty interesting, because that becomes one of his go-tos as well. The little table there, he starts scratching on that as an adapter, and when his stress rises, and he starts rubbing the sides of the chairs. So I thought those were interesting as well. Again, keep in mind, when he got in trouble for that, when he was arrested and did 6 years, and then just, "Oh yeah, that's right, I did that." He's doing that on purpose, obviously. But that lets you know the mindset of this guy. I wish we knew somehow his background from when he was a kid and found out what he was like up to that point. If he was mean to animals, if he was all the time in trouble with the law, things like that. My bet would be yes, because I'm sure he's got several murders between the one that he got in trouble for the first time and the one that he's there for now. So I think, again, the detective is doing a fantastic job here, because it feels more like an interview than an interrogation. That's the feeling he's giving, along with that room setup, which is perfect for something like this, because you're not sitting across from him or even next to him, because you'd be at that table and you'd be like, "Well, what about this or that or the other thing?" So it takes away that movie and TV vibe that you usually see when people are talking about interrogation. That's the first place they go. They always mention waterboarding, and then they'll talk about the room being, like a swinging single light up there. Where's the kid or where's the girl? That kind of thing. So I think that setup is great, because it keeps that stress down. He's not having to worry about, there are things you try to do to get you not to think about what things look like in there. And he's doing that. But still, at the same time, it's even more powerful, because he's in that room with a lot of color. It doesn't seem stale in there, that kind of thing. So I think that helps. In one situation, that helps the stress come down, because he's leaning back he's leaning back in that seat and he's all relaxed looking. But when he gets stressed, it comes out even more than it does when you're sitting in an uncomfortable seat already. So this is going to be good. I hope y'all like this as much as we do. All right, we good?
Yep.
Did you ever work as a security guard?
Yes, I worked at Ray Kim.
What's that?
Ray Kim.
Ray Kim?
Yeah, Ray Kim.
Oh, Ray Kim?
Yeah, it was in Redwood City.
Okay.
And, for about 6 months, I guess it was.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever think about applying for law enforcement or that type of thing?
I thought about it, but I didn't.
Okay.
I applied to fire department, but that was as far as it went.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you had never been arrested, and I found out something happened in Germany.
Okay,
can you tell me about
I
that?
was arrested in Germany.
Okay, what happened with that? Can you tell me about that?
I was accused of murder.
Okay.
I spent 6 years of a 10-year sentence in jail,
Oh wow.
in a juvenile jail.
So this was as you were juvenile at the
Yeah,
time?
this is when I was,
About how old do you think you were when this happened?
just out of high school.
Okay, right out of high school, and then they accused you as a juvenile.
Yeah, as a juvenile
Okay.
with a girl,
Okay.
and that was it.
Okay. Did you? I mean, obviously, you talked to the authorities there about what happened, right?
Yeah, I was investigated by the authorities,
Uh,
not by the military.
by the German authorities.
Yeah, German police.
Okay. Did it happen? Did this incident happen on the
In June.
base or
In June, off the base,
off the base? Okay.
but in a military housing area.
Ah. And so you spent actually 6 years in prison? over
Something
there?
like that.
Wow. And then how? After you were released, what happened?
I just was dropped off at McGuire Air Force Base, and my father picked me up, and that was it.
That was it. You came back to the
Never
United
heard
States.
a word from him. Nothing.
Okay. Okay. And then at some point, there was another accusation against you about a sexual assault from the Palo Alto Police
Yeah,
Department.
Palo Alto Police Department.
Okay.
That's when I was the leader of an explorer post.
Okay. Can you tell me about what happened there?
Nothing.
Okay.
I
It's
was
just
accused, interviewed, and that was it.
Okay. Did you end up serving time for that? Do you remember?
No, I didn't. I didn't serve any time that I know of.
Okay.
I can't.
Okay.
It was so piddly that.
It didn't.
Yeah.
You weren't. Didn't go to trial or anything
No.
like that. Okay. Okay. All right.
I can't remember anything about it. So
Okay. Yeah, it's a long time ago, right? Like 1975, around there.
you got more information than I.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
you got it written down. So
I did a little bit of research. I tried.
Yeah,
to at least,
I don't believe you did a lot of
yeah,
research.
Yeah.
because I totally forgot about Redwood City.
I'm starting to remind you some things from the
Yeah.
past, huh?
All right, Mark's growing a beard. Chase, what do you got?
So when he makes the denial about this sexual assault charge, it's the exact same little open palm movement with his left hand that he did when he was talking about when he was in prison in Germany. And he's saying, I didn't serve any time that I know of. That's amazing. No idea why he would answer it this way. He's also softening the entire situation. There's very serious calculation going on in his head right at this moment. This is guilty behavior. He's still not asking why the questions are being asked. This is a massive red flag, but he accidentally gives away the biggest tell I've ever seen in an interrogation room, maybe ever, in all of behavior panel history. He claims that he forgot about being accused of sexual assault. For a normal, functioning human being, this accusation would be like a 200-pound sandbag on them for decades and decades. It would never leave. It would have hurt, and it would have been a massive, huge deal. And I think he compartmentalizes these things really neatly. And I don't think they matter to him. It doesn't matter to him. So this is a big indicator that we might be dealing with a certain type of path. And I don't think he's an empath. And psychologists estimated his PCLR, I think it's what it's called, score as a 30 to 34, with the clinical threshold, I think, being 30. Scott, you could tell us whether I'm right or wrong. Scott, what do you got?
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm holding off on my saying psychopath. It seems like every time I turn around, I'm saying that about somebody, but they are what I'm talking about. So when he says he was a leader of an explorer post, leader is really loud. He's trying to show he's been given authority over people. So there's a little red flag for you. He's trying to show that he's had authority and he's trusted. So it's subtle as it is. I think that's what that's about. And again, the detective's just kind of laughing and talking to him. Going real, he's so excited he can hardly stand it because this is already a done deal. And I mean, obviously, this is going to be a done deal for him, but we'll see. And so I thought that was really interesting. And his approach to this is, I'm not going to say let's just say that he's excited because you can see him tapping his foot and he's rubbing his hand. He can't quit doing that. And he's laughing. His voice is a little bit high. And he can hear the detective's voice get higher and lower depending on what's going on as far as the tone goes. And he gets more excited when he starts talking about these things about when he was in prison and those kind of things. Or you said so-and-so, his voice goes up. But that's part of trying to match the guy as well. He's not quite matching him tonally, but he is volume-wise because the other guy's volume goes up and down as well, but not as much. So far, this guy has been accused in just 2 of our videos. One has done time for murder, and then the other one is an assault. What kind of assault? And it's like nothing to him. Neither one of these are anything to him. They mean nothing. Doesn't make him go anything. We don't see any kind of emotion whatsoever. Now he keeps bringing up his bad memory while he's being, appears to be calm. And I think that's the scariest part of this because he should be anxious. He should be apprehensive. He should be worried. He should be stressed. But all that's hidden if any of it is actually there. I'm under the impression he's not feeling much of that at all, but those things are missing. In a situation like this, facial expressions are tough to see because it's kind of blurry and he's sitting far away from the camera and all that. However, there is the big one, and that's the brow. You can see when his brow goes down in a couple minutes, we'll see when that change, and we can see his mouth. Those are the 2 biggies. The brows, Greg calls it the billboard of emotion, and then the mouth you'll be able to see that as well. So when those things work together, you can actually see an expression on his face, which we're not really seeing right now. We will in a few minutes. So for a detective in a situation like this, it's hard to keep that same happy, hey, that demeanor happening, especially when you're pretty sure this guy did what you assume he did, because at this point you're assuming because it seems so obvious. So keeping up this demeanor is kind of tough. So we have to appreciate that as well, because you can't be sitting there being so nice to somebody you know has done these horrible things, number 2, and then number 1, keeping your head together to be able to perform that. But I think his excitement overrides that, and that's what's keeping him in the game on this with no problem. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, I think you're right. Look, the interviewer here can't match a mirror completely, or else he'd just fall asleep. Yeah. I mean, they just spiral into nobody being able to remember anything or commit to anything or have any. So you've got to have some contrast. And I think the contrast he's chosen, I think he is doing a pretty good job of matching and mirroring something of the tone and the easygoing kind of casual nature of it. But he has sat forward because if he was back like the subject, I mean, he'd go into a coma. And we wouldn't go anywhere. Chase, I really do love that. I didn't serve any time that I know of. That is, I mean, it'd be a perfect thing. Well, here's a picture of you doing 10 years in such and such a prison, and the guy would have to go, I didn't know about that.
Nobody told me.
They didn't inform me that I was doing time.
I thought it was a day club.
Well, yeah. I mean, he does later on kind of call it Hollywood rather than
probably say
prison.
He'd probably say, "Look how thin I was back then."
Yeah. It's it's extraordinary the way he's doing that. Look, the other lovely contrast I see there is the minimization of the events that he has. I mean, that I didn't serve any time that I know of. That's kind of like a bit of a minimization. It's weird because it's like, well, obviously you'd know about it. So I wonder whether that's his way of minimizing it. It's like, yeah, I did, but I didn't know. I didn't know that was happening. I can only imagine. I can't. The psychology of that just doesn't make any rational sense.
It's the I didn't inhale version.
Not that I recall. It's exactly that. It's exactly that. So yeah, it's which for Bill, the president was, again, Clinton, thank you, was a minimization of it. You know, again, so I think you're right, Chase. It's that kind of minimization. So he's minimizing the events, and we see him do that throughout. And at the same time, he's maximizing in the chair as well. And in interrogations, you don't often see, I mean, we have, but you don't often see people really, you know, super maximizing, which he's doing. So this is, and this contrast of like, I'm minimizing this and I'm maximizing on this is quite interesting. But I'm only signaling this because we will get certainly a flip around of the physical maximization a little bit later on. And because it's been so big, I mean, what's great about this interview is you get big contrasts in this body language wise. So it's nice to see, and they're coming up fast and furious. Like in any of these videos, there's stuff that is easy to point at and go, look there. And I think that's partly because the interviewer is doing such a good job of asking the right questions and putting on the right kind of pressure, that we are getting some good results out of somebody who's really set themselves up to be nonchalant and like, I don't remember that, you know, it didn't even happen. So interesting stuff. Greg, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Let's start off by the two things that are missing, and you both, all of you are dancing around and actually said part of these, but he never says, I didn't do anything, but I was wrongly imprisoned in the last video. In this one, he never says, look, I was accused and I didn't do anything, so they let me go. In fact, he dismisses it and calls it piddly. A sexual assault charge against a minor, he calls piddly. And Scott, you talked about him being in charge of people, not people, children, underage people, because the Explorers Club is an extension of the Scouts and is with children where they're exploring new professions and that kind of thing. So it's really creepy that he's doing that. But what I think we're seeing here is a guy who is good at facades. He's got a facade that he's putting up. I think he's smarter than he appears. And the reason I think he's smarter than he appears is because stress will catch up with him later, but he's doing a pretty damn good job of fan dancing and staying out of the way of questions. He'll give you something insignificant. Watch him endorse when the guy says Palo Alto. Yeah, Palo Alto. He'll endorse certain facts, none of which hurt him. Yeah, that's where it occurred. But I think the reason he's done this is because he's been hiding in plain sight. You guys talked about last time him killing somebody, going home and cooking dinner. That's how people get good at hiding, is they compartmentalize, they doctor, they have a presentation of what they're going to give you. And that plausible deniability just keeps coming up. Not that I remember, not that I know of, those kinds of things. There's just so much in here. You guys have covered most of it. Let me see. When he says piddly, he's got some false concern in his face. Scott, you brought it up, where he's got the brow down, but he doesn't say, I wasn't charged with anything. And then he says, I totally forgot about that outright at one point. What is he talking about? How do you forget two major chapters in your life? And if we poked a little more, and I love the way this guy questions, if we poked a little more, we might find out he couldn't be a cop because he had been in prison. He couldn't be a fireman because he'd been in prison, but somebody let him near children. So how the hell did that work? So anyway, when a person gets to this point and they start giving you these I can't remember things, this becomes an important test of an interrogator. You have to have the right style to be able to pull that person back and say, but you said this, and you gave me a lot of details about this on the same day or same week or same month, which we're going to see him do. But he's forgetting about these massive things that happened in his life that were life-changing. Every one of these would have had an impact. You would have been fired from a job. All kinds of things could have occurred. You for sure would have had to go and talk to the police. There's one other possibility, and I don't think that's the case. There are people who are in denial about, and Chase, to your point earlier about where you're saying he's not protesting, sometimes they're in such denial they don't. If you've been around where you grab people and that kind of thing, sometimes they're in such denial they're like, this is not happening. I don't think we see that. I think we see a well-crafted lockdown persona that he's trying to pitch. And this cop is doing one of the best interrogations for that style. Remember, when I talk about two real questioning styles, I mean, there's a ton of strategies in interrogation, two real questioning styles. One is a Columbo scatter plot, pull them together at the end. The other is concentric circles, or like putting a rope around somebody's neck and tightening it. This guy is that guy, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. That's all I got.
Go back and talk about, you said when people grab people, you're skirting past that, assuming that everyone knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, so whether it's a police interrogation, whether it's a counterterror thing, whether it's you're deployed and you're grabbing people who have done something, you know it, and you're going door to door and pulling people, the shock of that being arrested for something you didn't expect. And this guy's been doing this for a long time, so he probably has gotten to a point he didn't expect it.
Explain why you know that.
Explain why. Yeah,
How
thanks.
you know that?
Yeah, my war experience is forward deployed with a team, and a lot of what you're doing is, somebody's done something wrong, they go pick them up, and then you get to be the guy who's first contact. Or in a full blown war, you may be the first contact they have with anybody who speaks that language, and you're interrogating the person. So yeah, good question, Scott.
Yeah, but you're missing the part where you would grab them.
Yeah, that's part of the business. And I personally am not the guy doing it most of the time. It's guys who are much better shot than I am who are doing that. But I'm there deployed with that team, so I'm interrogation support. Or when I say am, not at 60 something, I am not, but at 20 something, I was. So being deployed as an intel asset, way forward deployed, so that you're right there at the moment of capture for someone, you get a very different smell to that person, quite literally, than the person who's been in captivity for months, weeks, days, years. Good questions. Thanks. I forget to say that stuff sometimes.
And then at some point, there was another accusation against you about a sexual assault from the Palo Alto Police Department?
Palo Alto Police Department.
Okay.
That's when I was the leader of an Explorer post.
Okay. Can you tell me about what happened there?
Nothing.
Okay.
I
It's
was
just
accused, interviewed, and that was it.
Okay. Did you end up serving time for that? Do you remember?
No, I didn't. I didn't serve any time that I know of.
Okay.
I can't.
Okay.
It was so piddly that.
It didn't.
Yeah.
You weren't. Didn't go to trial or anything like that. Okay. Okay. All right.
I can't remember anything about it. So.
Okay. Yeah, it's a long time ago, right? Like 1975, around there.
You got more information than I.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
I mean,
you got it written down. So
I did a little bit of research. I tried.
Yeah,
to at least,
I don't believe you did a lot of
yeah,
research.
Yeah.
Because I totally forgot about Redwood City.
I'm starting to remind you some things from the past, huh?
Well, let's just wait on Chase. What are
Sorry,
you doing?
these sleeves are tight, really tight.
You should start wearing guy clothes.
So I want to tell you a little bit about my investigation, okay? And I'm hoping you can help me out, because my job is merely to find the truth,
Right.
in this investigation. Are you familiar with the with Palo Alto area, Stanford area, the hills in Stanford?
Yeah.
You ever go out there? You
I
ever,
was a scout leader. I traveled all those hills.
what hills? Which hills are you talking?
Well, we were out in the Bay, Half Moon Bay Hills,
Okay.
and I traveled up through there, hiked with the boys.
Okay.
That's about it. And years, don't ask me the years.
Okay.
I don't remember.
So you were a scout leader, and you'd go out to like the Santa Cruz Hills
Yeah.
to do hiking.
Yeah.
When was this? Like on the weekends?
So
or-
mostly weekends.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old were the scouts back then?
Oh, scouts were anywhere from 11 till 18, I
Okay.
guess it was. I never had any older old boys, but
Okay. How long did you do that?
for quite a few years.
Okay. Did you ever go in the hills, like in the area around Page Mill Road? Page Mill Road, like just west of Stanford?
No.
No, you never went to that area?
No.
Okay. So I'm investigating there's a murder up there in the hills. And would there be any reason that you were ever up in those hills? No?
No.
Okay. Do you ever recall being in the area of Page Mill Road and Old Page Mill Road? There used to be an old quarry back there up in the hills.
No.
Never been up in that area?
No.
Okay.
An old quarry. No.
Yeah, there's an old quarry back there. There's back in '73, a young man committed suicide up there. Did you ever hear about that?
No.
You were probably living in Palo Alto at the time.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think-
wait a minute. No, I don't think it was. He committed suicide or something.
Do you remember hearing about that?
I read it, glance at the paper. I don't remember the.
Okay.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. So Palo Alto is mentioned, and we see him reach for the cup and do just a couple of adaptions there before he then picks it up to drink, and then it goes back, and then a couple of adaptions. Again, there's no reason for this. I didn't see those adaptions before when he went to drink, so there's no good reason for that. It's not reasonable. So I think it suggests to me there's something going on. He's hit the interviewer isn't just throwing out, you know, he's not going to just throw out ideas. It's not a guess. He knows there's the probability of something there, and for us analyzing this, we can go, yeah, you hit that one right. Look at that little movement before it comes up. Now, again, I think we mentioned this before, but nicely done here. The interviewer does match the drinking at the same time. So that's really nicely done. And listen, if you didn't notice that yourself, that he matches that, because you might think to yourself, gosh, you know, when you match a mirror, people must know that. But if you didn't notice it, you didn't notice that, did you? And go back and watch that and get a sense of how that feels that they both do that together. That sense of accord, that sense of comfort, because that's what the interviewer is trying to get from that, is just an under the wire sense of comfort that unless you're somebody who's looking out for that stuff, you're really not going to notice. You're just going to have that feeling of, oh, this is going quite nicely. You know, for the person being interviewed, I think I probably got away with that. Look, he's along, he's joining in with me. We're together. We're, you know, simpatico on this. And then the quarry is mentioned. The subject then gets much quieter, in my view, at this point, after the mention of this quarry. He starts to minimize his body, and it's easy to see because he was so maximized. I think we get a barrier of the leg as well, I think. And also he starts to adapt as well. I can't remember where he adapts. I think it's probably on the sofa or something like that. He's adapting. But anyway, go back and watch and tell me. I just put he adapts and he barriers to put in the notes where he's adapting and where he's barriering. If you understand what I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about there. So put in the notes for me where he's adapting and is barriering, because I didn't write it down. Scott, what do you got on this one?
All right, I agree with you on the mirroring there. That's that's
Beautiful.
pretty important, because that shows they're getting along, and it gives the perp the feeling that, you know, everything's going smoothly. And when we talk about matching, what the matching part of matching and mirroring is, there's a guy named Milton Erickson. He's the guy that pretty much studied this in depth the first time. And the matching part is you try to sound like, in other words, the other person sounds. You can match their volume and their tone, those kind of things, but you also match what the way they describe things. Some people are people who talk about sound all the time. So that's an auditory person. They may say things like, I hear you. That sounds good to me. And so you would couch your replies and you're talking, when you're talking to them, in those same types of things that deal with hearing. If it's someone who's a visual style person in communication, when you're matching that, you listen to how they talk. They talk about color a lot. They may say something like, oh, that dress, you know, they may talk about the color of a dress a lot, or they may talk about the scene of something. They'll talk about the way things look, and you'll say, that looks good to me. I see what you're saying, those kind of things, or they may say those things. So you try to match them the way they speak by doing that yourself. So when you put the mirroring and the matching together, it's really potent when you're trying to get along with somebody. We're trying to not only open up communication, but get them to like you as well. So that's really important. Then I think the loudest he's been so far, and the most animated, is when he starts getting that hand swirling going up there, as he's describing stuff. So that's an odd illustrator, but that's what he's doing. As he's I don't know what we call that, a swirly. I guess the swirly used to be when you dunk somebody's head in the commode in high school. That's what we called a swirly. But that's what I would call a swirly, when somebody's hand is up doing something like that. So that's the loudest he's been so far. But when the detective drops that bait question, would there be any reason you were ever up in those hills? He just shakes his head no. That's all he does. Doesn't say anything. And then he waits. The detective waits, and that's good. That's what you want to do. We're all the time talking about how when you ask someone a question and they don't answer, or they give you an answer fairly quickly, you just wait and see what if they add any qualifiers to that to make it sound more believable, their answer. This detective knows just to wait. So he says a little something there, but then he just shuts up and waits for him to keep talking. So that's a great tool for you to use as you ask questions about something you're not sure about, if you think somebody may be being deceptive with you. So after the quarry question, we hear fading facts. He says, no, no. And he says an old quarry or an old quarry when he's talking about that. Then he crosses his legs. And that's the part where you know he's been stung, because things are starting to change at this point. Things are getting a little bit different. He started off in the first video we saw. We're 11 minutes in when that first video we saw starts. And his legs were under the chair, but now they're under the chair again. So he was relaxed earlier, but he's just trying to find comfort. That's probably the reason why he's stuck his legs under the chair. Not that he's not comfortable overall. He probably is psychologically. He's probably feeling a lot of discomfort there. And part of that he's trying to get rid of is when he pulls his legs under the chair, because he's not going to get up and scooch around and do a lot of moving, but he's going to at least move his legs. That's where he's trying to find something there. So he's on the defense now. He's trying to find out more about what this detective knows. He knows they know a lot, and he said, you've done a lot of research on me, especially when he's reminding him of the times he was in prison when he said he didn't remember. So he's on the defense now. So he's trying to decide and make decisions about what this detective knows or what he doesn't know. So, and earlier I talked about your inability to see facial expressions in a situation like this, but that concern is now in his brow and in his mouth. You can't miss it. It's huge. So we can see what's going on in there. So he's concerned about what's happening. We see that on his face. And all the whole time, this detective is staying calm and really hadn't changed much at all. And again, that's tough to do, to maintain that demeanor as you go along. So Mark's also growing a mustache. Chase, what do you got?
So y'all covered the matching and mirroring thing. Just to cover some facts for anybody that's not well read on the case, which I wasn't today. He killed a few times during his time as a scout leader. And even did one assault on a young lady that we can't mention here on this platform where you're watching us right now. But the first one was Leslie Perloff in 1973, and he was an assistant scoutmaster. And then Janet Taylor in 1974, he was the primary organizer of the trip. But several scouts, this is what got me today, because I looked this guy up this morning. I'm not an expert on this case. A bunch of the Girl Scouts after this trip noted that he was way calmer and happier right after each murder. Man, that hit me pretty hard. So his scout leader role was I think a deliberate hunting ground that gave him authority and isolation opportunities and just this steady supply of young girls. And the interrogator asked this bait question, would there be any reason why you would ever be up in those hills? He has just said he's seen all through these hills, and now there's no reason he would ever be up there. And he's getting questioned about the specific location. There is a beautiful and perfect, what I would just call a progressive artery protection mechanism that unfolds here. It goes into this femoral thing where he's crossing his legs, making it harder to get to that artery. And then his arms come off of the arms of the chair and kind of dig down here by his sides to protect the brachial. And he's fidgeting, self-soothing. The body's just trying to burn off a lot of this excess adrenaline. You can see him trying to burn this off. So this is what the body does when we have a spike in adrenaline and we're not wanting anyone to know. So we're trying to conceal it. We want to burn it off secretly. And that's what we're seeing is the secret burn off. Greg?
Yeah, this video alone, we could do an entire course on this video for interrogation, because there's some great Scharfian interrogation going on here. When he did everything he did for underpinnings in the last two videos, those are to let this guy know, we know a lot about you so that I can take the next step. And what we see in We Know All, by the way, We Know All simply says, we have a lot of information. We're going to tell you what we want to tell you, and we're not going to tell you everything that we do know about you. That's the approach you take, one of the approaches that you use in Scharfian interrogation. And the bait question is an extension of that, is all it is. It's simply the same thing, but very concisely delivered. It's easier to teach that than it is to do a really good we know all. As I was watching this guy, I was thinking, I hear people talking about interrogation all the time that clearly have never done it. I can tell because, and I say, watching a bird means you think you can fly, but it takes a hell of a lot of guts to jump off the roof. And to be able to go in and do what this guy's doing as calmly as he is doing it is impressive. He does mirroring and matching. He matches that laugh. I love that, watching that. You guys have covered that whole thing. He does this palms up, fluid conversation, great eye contact to draw the guy out, to get him to talk. He can clearly tell the guy's going to do a whole lot of that stonewalling and blocking at every turn and compartmentalization. When I think to this whole thing, when he's using his left hand, is he's trying to illustrate going up in the hills. And I think what he has done is chosen, and this is often a mistake a person being interrogated does. We call things non-pertinent information. We'll ask questions that have nothing to do with the actual case so that we can get a baseline, we can figure out who you are and all those kinds of things. Often a source, the person we're interrogating, a perp, will not have any idea what is pertinent or non-pertinent. This guy's made the wrong choice. He's picked the wrong non-pertinent that he's willing to talk about this time because he says he's been all over those hills. Then he says he hasn't. It's very different than you think. The first real flag we see is that concern when he starts talking to him about Page Mill Road. When you see that, that's when you're talking about, Scott. You see that concern and his eyes narrow and his head twist in kind of a wooden cadence. Very quickly, something is wrong. Something's off there. If it's 45 years later, you could say, hell, I was all over these hills, and I wouldn't know whether I was in that place at any given time. But he knows there's a murder, and he knows more about it than he should. Really interestingly, we see a rigid head shake no, and that Gollum cough. If you go back and watch Lord of the Rings, and the guy go, Gollum, Gollum, he does that. The only time we hear him cough in this entire interrogation is at that bait question. And right after that, when he starts to talk about that, talk about the old quarry, there's a barrage of things. And Mark, I'll list some of them I saw. There's a change in cadence in that head shake, faster. A hastened leg cross, very quickly crosses his legs. He appears to have his chin down to protect his throat. There are a lot of new adapters, and those adapters are starting to make contact with self instead of the chair. He puts his hand in his pocket and then realizes his pocket's a mess and finds a reason he put his hand in his pocket and grooms the pocket. Just like you've seen the thing when Hillary Clinton was in front of Congress over servers. You could see her look at her shoulder and then pick lint. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on here that we didn't see in the first one because he's compartmentalized and packaged that first resistance that he wanted to do. But this thing's starting to fall apart for him now. So he's going to now go and try to deny memory, and we'll see what he's got next. That even though he's claiming not to have memory of this, that big cluster of red flags around that quarry and around this hilltop are going to get him.
So I want to tell you a little bit about my investigation, okay? And I'm hoping you can help me out, because my job is merely to find the truth,
Right.
in this investigation. Are you familiar with the with Palo Alto area, Stanford area, the hills in Stanford?
Yeah.
You ever go out there?
I was a scout leader. I traveled all those hills.
What hills? Which hills are you talking?
Well, we were out in the Bay, Half Moon Bay Hills,
Okay.
and I traveled up through there, hiked with the boys.
Okay.
That was about it. And years, don't ask me the years.
Okay.
I don't remember.
So you were a scout leader, and you'd go out to like the Santa Cruz Hills
Yeah.
to do hiking.
Yeah.
When was this? Like on the weekends?
So
or-
mostly weekends.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old were the scouts back then?
Oh, scouts were anywhere from 11 till 18, I
Okay.
guess it was. I never had any older boys, but
Okay. How long did you do that?
for quite a few years.
Okay. Did you ever go in the hills, like in the area around Page Mill Road? Page Mill Road, like just west of Stanford?
No.
No, you never went to that area?
No.
Okay. So I'm investigating there's a murder up there in the hills. And would there be any reason that you were ever up in those hills? No?
No.
Okay. Do you ever recall being in the area of Page Mill Road and Old Page Mill Road. There used to be an old quarry back there up in the hills.
No,
Never been up in that area?
no.
Okay.
An old quarry? No.
Yeah, there's an old quarry back there. There's back in 73, a young man committed suicide up there. Did you ever hear about that?
No.
You were probably living in Palo Alto at the time.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think-
wait a minute. No, I don't think it was. He committed suicide or something.
Do you remember hearing about that?
I read it, glanced at the paper. I don't remember the.
Okay. Tell me about what happened. What was the accusation against you?
I killed a chaplain's, or not chaplain. Yeah, a chaplain's daughter.
Okay.
And that was all I knew.
Okay. Do you remember what happened?
No.
With this young female?
No,
No.
I didn't even know her.
You didn't even know her? How were you arrested for it? If
How I was arrested?
yeah, why did they arrest you? I mean, if
Probably the next day
okay,
after they found the body, I guess.
okay. How did they tie you to this body? How did they connect you to this body?
Somebody had seen me, walk that direction or walk towards the school, or
Okay,
it was an elementary school.
okay. Did you? I mean, I don't know the details of what
I
happened.
don't know the details either, so
Okay. Did you actually meet this young lady?
that's what they say.
Okay. And do you remember meeting
No.
her? Okay. What do you remember about that whole event, the whole incident, starting from when the police talked to you until you were convicted?
Till I was committed?
Convicted, yeah. Do you remember the investigation itself? Like
No,
who you talked to,
no,
what they talked about?
no. Just a psychiatrist, I guess it was, and asked me the same questions over again.
Okay,
That was it.
that was it.
Yeah.
How did they prove you guilty? Do you know?
Well, the proof, I guess, was the seeing me more, and I was the only person there, and whatever it was. But
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you
And
remember?
if you want to get investigated, this juvenile records are locked up. So
Yeah. So,
I'd like to know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, did you tell him you did it?
No.
Okay. Because I mean, that's what I was wondering
Yeah.
about that. How did they, how you ended up spending time in prison? Or that's kind of odd.
It was more like a Hollywood, not a prison.
Really?
Yeah.
So they actually took care of you, and
Yeah.
that's good. At least you weren't, suffering.
I wasn't tried. I wasn't beaten or anything else.
Good. Good.
All right, Chase, what do you got?
It's the exact same little left-handed, this little thing right here. Dismissive gesture with his left hand, as we've seen before. So I think this is a reliable indicator for this guy. His description of what he was accused of sounds a lot like a confession to me. I killed the chaplain's daughter, and that's all I knew. He didn't say they accused me of. He didn't say I was accused of. He didn't say the crime was. He just says that's what happened. So after 6 years in prison, I promise you, someone knows the details if they did the crime. And if they're innocent, they'll know 10 times more because of that innocence. It'll be 6 years of research that they'll be doing. There's absolute denial about being in proximity to someone. So when somebody's asked, this is one of the times where an ambiguous answer, we talked about in I think video 1 here, where to the best of my knowledge, as far as I know, these are what we call ambiguous answers. There may be another name. But this is where we would want to see an ambiguous answer for truth telling. They might say, not that I know of, or probably so. It's a small military base, so I probably ran into her, or I don't think so. But it's an outright denial. That is a red flag. So his memory about everything enjoyable in his life seems to be crystal clear, and it fogs up the moment there's a stressor. This is compartmentalization. And let me talk about that really fast. If I haven't gone on too far, I feel like maybe not.
No.
So most people think compartmentalization is a psychological defense for psychopaths. But for these psychopaths, it's anatomy. It's an anatomical structure almost. So in a typical brain, when you do something wrong or even imagine doing something wrong, your amygdala and your prefrontal cortex just light up. That's guilt. That's fear. That's how we stay social as a tribe. It stamps it or tags that memory with a visceral thing. Don't ever do that again. And we learn that way. But in a psychopath's brain, that circuitry barely fires off, if at all. This is proven in fMRI scans that they show up to a 30% less activity on guilt and fear tasks. So the emotional tag is missing. The memory is just filed away in exactly the same way as a bologna sandwich. So there's no cortisol, there's no stress, no flash of the victim's face years later, nothing. So it's not that they're trying to compartmentalize. There's just no alarm going off in the first place. So that's how you get a man who strangles a teenage girl on Friday and then volunteers at her school's car wash on Saturday without a single little psychological contradiction whatsoever. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I personally have a lot of guilt around a bologna sandwich. That's, so there's that. We're not all built the same.
Have you ever had a fried bologna sandwich, Mark?
No, I haven't. That would be like top. You may as well give me fried bologna in a fried donut. You may
you should try it. You'd like it.
I think I've just invented something there. The fried bologna donut, fried donut.
I'd eat a fried bologna donut.
Yeah. Go to Texas. Yeah. I'm sure they got it.
I'm sure they do. Yeah, I'm sure I've invented nothing there. I'm sure there's viewers out there going, no, I had those, one of those when I was 5. So look, I'll stay off.
It is Thanksgiving.
Yeah, what a great Thanksgiving that would be. You stuff your turkey with fried bologna and deep fry your turkey. Some of you
might have just come up with something.
You might be doing that. I'm sure it's great. Have a great Thanksgiving, by the way, everybody. Okay, look, this guy's the Dalai Lama because, he's so calm, even though he was circumstantially, imprisoned. Well, not imprisoned, we'll get there. But just while I was walking by this kind of area and they grabbed me and I had a few interviews and that was it. I was banged up for 6 years. I would be livid. You'd not hear this would have been the start of the video. I'd be going, look, before we get into anything, I want to tell you about the time when I wrongly was imprisoned for something I did not do. Yeah. I mean, whole TV shows are made out of that premise. The person who was imprisoned for the thing and then they're now on a rampage. They're on to right the wrong to themselves. This guy, his rampage is like have another, fried bologna donut or something. It's like he's so it just doesn't make any sense. And then he suggests he wasn't tried, but he had interviews from psychiatrists. And so he says he was committed, not convicted. And so corrects that. So it sounds like, and I haven't looked into this, but it sounds like he was sectioned in some way. May have been because if this is the crime in Germany that he's talking about, and I'm not quite sure it is, I don't know, but he would have been a juvenile and maybe they don't put you in a court. It was maybe on a base. So there was maybe that involved and base authorities and German authorities. But everything is kind of minimized and made ordinary. I just, I had a few interviews with some psychiatrists and they committed me. Like that's a serious story. You were sectioned, mate. You were sectioned for 6 years. Like that means like that's pretty serious. Where, on any day of the week where I come from. Greg, what do you think?
I think he says out loud what he's thinking, and it is powerful. And then I'll back into that. But he plays his hand. He says, I don't remember, and you don't have access to the record because I was a juvenile. That's pretty powerful. That's saying that chapter of my life is over. I don't have to talk about it. And I think we're going to see him do that more often. He closes those books and just says, look, I don't remember. I'm not going to talk about it. it's funny to watch what he does as he's working through this. The really good indicator is he misunderstands a word, and I don't think he misunderstands it. I think his brain is running at high speed while this guy's asking questions. And when he says where or why, when he says, why did they put you in jail? He answers the when question. And you see that in people when they're under real high stress. We did a show called Guantanamo Guidebook for UK4, and we had this fireman in there who goes into burning buildings all the time. And we had him under so much stress that I said, look down to the ground. And he started to get down on his knees because he heard down to the ground is all he heard. Because we hear sentences, and most of us are not really actively listening. We think we hear what the person's saying, and we fill in the gaps. I was just saying on the break, in language, when you're learning to speak Arabic or any language with a foreign script, you suddenly realize that you don't read. We don't read English. We recognize the shape of the word, and we fill in the blanks. Our brains are fantastic pattern finding systems, and that's what they do best. So when we think we know something and we're also counter-tracking, trying to figure out our next move in this chess game that he's playing, we'll often mishear. That's what I think the why to win is. And there's just a problem for this guy because he then telegraphs and tells you exactly what he's thinking. And then it wasn't really prison is basically what he says. He adapts and he says it was kind of Hollywood-like. That's a modern brain reconciling and looking backward. He's reconciled whatever he did wrong and he paid his dues. And I'm sure he's had a way of making it not as bad as it was. I mean, think about this. This was an elementary school age child that he killed at that age, I believe. He was a high school kid or right out of high school and killed this little kid. And you said it earlier. There's no remorse here. We don't see any remorse. This is a fact that he killed this person. We're not even talking about the case at hand. We're talking about law decided facts that he killed somebody. And then we're talking about a sexual assault that he was accused of. We don't see any remorse. We don't see any remorse that you're challenging him and calling him out. A guy who supposedly loved kids and spent time with all these kids to help them grow and be stronger and better in these explorers clubs and scouts. No compassion, no feelings of pain, no feelings of any kind. Just piece of garbage. That's all I got. Scott, have you been?
Okay.
Scott, what do you got?
So funny to say. Now, while they're talking about this murder and finding the body, then his right arm, it sort of becomes a barrier there. John's right arm is laying back in that chair. His arm becomes a barrier. His voice tone, and volume, those also lower at the same time as he's talking about that. It's his brain is trying to get him separated from this detective at this point. He's trying to act like everything's fine. It's no big deal. But I think it's dawned on him what's happening here. I think he sees, like you were talking about earlier, Greg, that noose tightening. I think he feels that happening now. So, and then when he said, did you meet this young lady? And he says, that's what they say. Well, that's a yes or no answer that's supposed to come up there. Yes, I did, or no, I didn't. So that's kind of odd too. And then he said, do you remember meeting her? And then he says no before, unless this is what you covered, Mark. He says no before the answer is finished. It sort of intersects, overlays over that last thing that the detective says. And that lets us know that he's trying to decide. He thinks he knows what this detective's going to say, and he's trying to get those answers out really quick because he's on to the next question. So he almost, maybe he expected that question. I don't know, but something's up there because he answered that so quickly and right on top of him. So also notice that his right thumb on that chair it's not constant, but he's adapting with that. He keeps rubbing the chair with that. And when he's not rubbing the chair with that, I think Greg brought it up earlier, he's rubbing that table with it. We hear that big sound of him scratching on the table as he's doing that. So it's in there. That stress is in there, and he's trying to hold it back, keep it held back. That, or there isn't a whole lot, and we're just seeing a little bit of stress coming out on him as he's getting rid of this stuff. If he was indeed a clinical psychopath, if he was a psychopath, then that might be what it is, because the stress for psychopaths is very low, if any at all, but there's something's making him uncomfortable there. And that's why he's trying to get rid of that built up stress and tension. So
tell me about what happened. What was the accusation against you?
I killed a chaplain's daughter.
Okay.
And that was all I knew.
Okay. Do you remember what happened
No.
with this young female?
No.
No?
I didn't even know her.
You didn't even know her? How were you arrested for it if...
How I was arrested?
Yeah, why did they arrest you? I mean, if...
Probably the next day
Okay,
after they found the body, I guess.
okay. How did they tie you to this body? How did they connect you to this body?
Somebody had seen me, walk that direction or walk towards the school, or
Okay,
it was an elementary school.
okay. Did you... I mean, I don't know the details of what
I
happened.
don't know the details either, so
Okay. Did you actually meet this young lady?
that's what they say.
Okay. And do you remember meeting
No.
her? Okay. What do you remember about that whole event, the whole incident, starting from when the police talked to you until you were convicted?
Till I was committed?
Convicted, yeah. Do you remember the investigation itself? Like
No.
who you talked to?
No.
What they talked about?
No. Just a psychiatrist, I guess it was, and asked me the same questions over again.
Okay.
That was it.
That was it?
Yeah.
How did they prove you guilty? Do you know?
Well, the proof, I guess, was the seeing me more, and I was the only person there, and whatever it was. But
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you
And
remember?
if you want to get investigated, this juvenile records are locked up. So
Yeah.
I'd
So-
like to know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, did you tell them you did it?
No.
Okay. Because I mean, that's what I was wondering
Yeah.
about that. How did they, how you ended up spending time in prison over that? That's kind of odd.
It was more like a Hollywood, not a prison.
Really?
Yeah.
So they actually took care of you, and
Yeah.
that's good. At least you weren't, suffering.
I wasn't tried. I wasn't beaten or anything else.
Good. Wow, we talked a lot about a lot of different things. I'd like you to just, hopefully I can jog your memory a little bit more. You can clarify a couple of questions I had, specifically regarding that allegation against you in 1975 with this young girl where you went to her house.
Palo Alto,
Yeah, in Palo Alto.
Date, I don't know.
You don't remember the date, right? Do you recall how you went to that house, or
I vaguely remember, really.
okay? Do you remember the reason
She
for
was
going?
still in high school, so
Okay. Do you remember the reason for going to her house? No. Do you remember having a conversation with this girl about going to her house? But you did tell me that you guys were alone in the house.
yeah, at first I don't know.
Okay.
Because I had so many scouts. They always come to my house and all. They were like we were like family.
Yeah.
But I don't remember why she came or who invited her or what.
Okay. But it was her house, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you ended up showing up at her house?
I don't know if I ended up showing at her house or we went to her house.
Okay. And then you did say that she accused you of a sexual assault.
Well, that's what they say.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you just said. That,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. And then
But I was never arrested.
you were never arrested. Okay. Did you ever have to go to court on that accusation?
I don't know if I had a court or what.
Okay. Were you booked into the jail at all?
No, I was not.
You weren't booked into the jail?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I never went to jail or,
Yeah.
I didn't wear any handcuffs like
Yeah, okay.
like this is a
Right, like
from
the
the handcuffs.
scuff from the
Oh man, it
handcuff.
hurt.
Yeah, those aren't comfortable. Those
Yeah.
things aren't comfortable.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Nothing I know of. I mean, this guy, if he says that one time more, it's interesting because I think it's a closed chapter in the book to him, and we're going to see it over and over and over. But he's in this Uncle Fester kind of pose now. He's all heads down, all turtled into his body. His legs are crossed, his hands are folded across and resting on his abdomen, chin down over throat. All that to me makes me think that this is starting to cook his processor in there a little bit. And Mark, I know you're going to talk about venting in a minute. We see him heating up because that adrenaline is getting to him, but he's still masterful at sitting pretty damn still for somebody who's on the hot seat for this. Now we're talking about a crime from the past, not nearly as big a deal as the one that is not solved. This one he's claiming he got out of. As a matter of fact, he's got closure in his mind. I was never arrested. He says it. He closes a chapter on it. When a guy says that to you, and it's this guy, you can probably rest assured he's not going to give you much more. But he chose, again, a bad non-pertinent. She was still in high school. He avoids some questions outright, and that's one of the longest silences I've ever heard to a question. I don't know is a quick answer versus just letting those things go. That you can see when he does one piece of body language that's pretty good to say, I'm done with this, and there's acceptance in his chin boss. You know, that thing, pursed lips, said, I'm done. I was never arrested. And he walks away from it. What I give the cop credit for is he doesn't push hard on this one. He needs information somewhere else. So pushing hard on a case that was solved, that was settled, is a waste of energy. Scott, what do you got?
All right. I'm going to get right to the arms over his head. I'm going to leave the venting part for Mark on that. It could be a couple of different things. Well, as Mark will talk about venting, but also when you put your arms above your head, that makes you get a lot more blood to your heart a lot quicker. So that could, now he's not probably thinking that, but that's what happens. So it may be a little bit, help him relax a little bit more. Also, when you yawn, you stretch, and sometimes your hands will go up and back there as well. So that may be a stretching thing as well, where he's trying to help himself get relaxed and get some of that tension. And if you'll watch those videos that came out on 9/11 of the people in the streets watching things happen, watching the planes hit or people jumping off the building, you'll see their hands go up and go on and touch their heads. So that could be a small version of a panic motion or situation for him, or an oh no situation for him, because people will do that when they see something horrible. If you see somebody get hit by a car, one time we were in a little restaurant in LA and sitting right by the street, and this guy walked down the street and got hit by a cab. And then when he did, his shoes flew off and they went flying down the street. But almost everybody that saw that happen, everybody's hands were on their head. The guy was okay, didn't kill him or anything, because he jumped right up, scared him to death. But everybody's hands were on their head. So when you see something like that, it's almost a way to show oh no, or a panic situation. That's what you see that in. Again, I think he's feeling that noose tightening, and he's starting to feel the stress from that. If he can possibly feel stress, being with the neurological situation he has going on in his head. Psychopathy is, of course, what I'm referring to. All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. Good rundown there. Let me break it down the way I see it. I think this is extreme venting going on. First of all, losing heat from under here. There absolutely could be some aspects of stretching out as well, because the muscles could be very, very tense at the moment. So it does the job of cooling you down and stretching you out. The yawn as well, that's often a mood adjuster, and it's a social signal. One of the ideas is that we yawn as human beings because it's so it's easy for everybody to see, hey, I'm going to sleep now. So everybody goes to sleep at the same time. Imagine you had a social system where some are awake at night and some are asleep, and this person you want everybody going to sleep at the same time, apart from the people whose job it is to look after the fire, to ward off the animals. You don't want them going to sleep. So, you come into your cave, into your hut, underneath your tree all together. So, somebody starts yawning, everybody joins in, and everybody falls asleep together and gets rest at the same time. So I think extreme venting for sure. He does what I would say is a suppressor on the head, first of all. So that's different from trying to protect yourself from seeing the horror. That tends to be a blinker movement here. It's more of a suppressor to calm down the emotions that are going on. So I think he's very stressed at the moment. And then I believe he tries to hide that by putting the hands towards the back of the head and going, yeah, I'm just hanging out casually here. This is just me being casual. But I think initially it's extreme venting, and he's under a lot of pressure there because we get that rubbing of the eyes, we get the cleaning of the glasses. I think anger's building up in him, and it might be the suppression of that anger, because when he starts to talk about the handcuffs and he does this, that hurt, and a fist forms there. and it feels like he wants to get aggressive and angry, and anger's an interesting emotion because it's designed to show people really quickly that you mean some, you're going to do something physical and you're going to end this fast. I think he's kind of suggesting there that he wants to end this now really fast and aggressively, but he knows he has no power to do that in the room. That wouldn't work for him. So he's having to suppress that anger or sublimate it into something else, like all those handcuffs hurt. I'd really like to smash your head in right now, but you're a cop, and that would make it even worse for me right now. Listen, I'm just going to say one more thing before I hand to you, Chase. If you got kids, or you're a great aunt or uncle, or you just have responsibility for kids in some way, and you're putting them in some kind of youth club or whatever it is, whether it's something run by an organization, any kind of kids activity. It might be a business, might be run by an organization, might be run by a church, might be run by the police. I don't know, could be, I don't care who it's run by. It is totally legitimate to go up to whoever's organizing this and go, what is your policy about police checks for all your staff and any volunteers? And see what they say. And their answer should be, hey, yeah, we get police checks for any staff or volunteer that are working with the kids here. Absolutely. Yeah, it shouldn't be, oh, well, I don't think we need to do that. Or yes, you do. Yes, you absolutely do. Yeah, I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. That should be your policy. And it's totally legitimate. You shouldn't be offending anybody. Listen, I would rather offend somebody than send my kid in where I don't know. It's like, okay, I'm going to offend you right now, because it would be more offensive if my child gets hurt in some way. Totally legitimate. Do that. Chase, what do you got on this one?
You know what he's doing here, I think? The old Chris Watts. Arms overhead.
Yeah.
It's a surrender, but it's also a cooling off. But he pulls his glasses off, wipes his face, then he keeps wiping his eyes, pretending to clean his glasses with the Kleenex that he pulled off the table. I don't think the goal is to clean anything. It's to buy time. I think it's concealing his face and just kind of perform the residue of emotion without even feeling it. But the interviewer asked about a prior court appearance for sexual assault against a minor. Likely the most high risk, socially effing repulsive, life-altering moment in this man's adult life. And he says he doesn't effing remember it. This is not like he blocked out some trauma or like fogged out some shame. This is psychopathy on display. Normal brains imprint traumatic, consequential moments through the amygdala and the prefrontal brain. The court date should be scorched into memory. But for psychopaths, that loop is broken. There's no guilt, no fear, no emotional tag. So he doesn't know this is unusual. Even if he's being deceptive, he doesn't understand that this is unusual, weird as shit behavior. So the memory gets filed cold. There's no heat to it, no emotion, no weight, nothing. He's not forgetting at all. It's just a horrifying absence of consequence, period. That's all I got.
But you know what? I agree with you. When big things happen, you'll remember the date and who was there and the scene of it,
Here's the horrible part. I think he does remember the big event to him, and it wasn't the jail issue.
I think and if he remembers it, and then he's saying he doesn't remember it, and he thinks that that's a plausible answer, psychopath still.
Yeah, agreed. All I'm saying is the thing he remembers that he has the strongest memories about are probably the act of what he did, because he's that kind of a monster. Yeah. Yep, agreed. On all fronts.
Well, we talked a lot about a lot of different things. I'd like you to just, hopefully I can jog your memory a little bit more. You can clarify a couple of questions I had, specifically regarding that allegation against you in 1975 with this young girl where you went to her house.
In Palo Alto,
Yeah, in Palo Alto.
Date, I don't know.
You don't remember the date, right? Do you recall how you went to that house? Or
I vaguely remember, really.
okay, do you remember the reason
She
for
was
going?
still in high school, so
Okay, do you remember the reason for going to her house? No. Do you remember having a conversation with this girl about going to her house? But you did tell me that you guys were alone in the house.
at first I don't know.
Okay.
Because I had so many scouts. They always come to my house and all. They were like we were like family.
Yeah.
But I don't remember why she came or who invited her or what.
Okay. But it was her house, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you ended up showing up at her house?
I don't know if I ended up showing at her house or we went to her house.
Okay. And then you did say that she accused you of a sexual assault.
Well, that's what they say.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you just said. That,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. And then
But I was never arrested.
you were never arrested. Okay. Did you ever have to go to court on that accusation?
I don't know if I had a court or what.
Okay. Were you booked into the jail at all?
No, I was not.
You weren't booked into the jail?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I never went to jail or,
Yeah.
I didn't wear any handcuffs like
Yeah, like today?
like this is a
Right, like
from
the
the handcuffs.
scuff from the
Oh man, it
handcuff.
hurt.
Yeah, those aren't comfortable. Those
Yeah.
things aren't comfortable. Okay. And I know you told me that you actually went to this girl's house. I'm not going to ask you, did you have sex with her?
Nope.
No? Do you remember?
Nope.
Okay.
I wish I could help you out, but
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm hoping that talking about this will bring back some of those memories. You don't recall having sex with her?
no.
Okay.
They can check DNA, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, possibly, right?
Yeah. Possibly. And I don't know.
Yeah. Right. So you don't recall, you're telling me you recall going to the house, but you don't recall if you had sex with her.
No, yeah.
Okay. And you recall talking to the police, but you
I
don't
don't
remember
remember
if you got
what you
arrested.
No, I was walking around all the time.
So you never booked physically into a jail? Okay. And from that accusation, did you have to go to court?
Probably is what if it wasn't an open courtroom.
Okay. Did you ever have to plea to this accusation? Did you ever have to tell them, you pled not guilty,
Guilty and not guilty. I mean,
Okay.
through my attorney.
Okay.
I guess.
And what was the outcome of that accusation?
Don't know. I'm still walking around.
Yeah. So you never spent time in jail for that accusation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Spent time in jail for drunken driving once.
Okay.
But in Palo Alto.
Palo
but-
Alto. That's just like a night in jail,
Yeah,
right?
DUI.
Yeah. How long ago was that?
Oh, who knows?
Yeah. Okay.
Anything more than, let's say, 5 years ago, or I don't remember at all.
Okay.
All right, that's fairly interesting. Anybody want to start?
Well, so here's what I love about this is the start of this, he's just leant completely in the other direction.
I think there may be back issues. I know
be.
that feeling. Yeah, I think it may be back.
Could be. But
I
I
think
mean,
he's
he
got
didn't have the
gas.
back issues throughout the rest of it. It's like at this point, now he's getting back issues.
Yeah.
You know what I love?
Got gas.
He closes chapter 2 as cleanly as he closed chapter 1, where he said, you can't get the information, and I was 18. He says, I'm still walking around. And he makes hard eye contact, shakes his head, and does an out breath right after. He's just telling that cop, this is futile. You're never going to stick this to me. That's powerful.
What about
think
that head scratch?
with his fingernails. Yeah.
Good Lord, man. Yeah, he's digging into his brain at that point. I think that's a huge indicator of stress right there because he knows exactly what happened. That's what he's thinking while he's doing it. I don't know, as he's scratching his head.
And the interrogator does a good job minimizing the crime. He
Oh, yeah.
uses the word sex instead of the real word to help him feel better about his recollection. He says, no. Do you remember? No.
Yep.
Just the fact that there's a memory problem, not I would never do that in my lifetime. Just like, now I don't remember. Even if you didn't remember, you would know that your character would say that would never happen. That I would absolutely deny it outright. He's not repulsed by it. He's not moved or angered by any of that shit. He's still not asking why all these questions are being asked.
And he's parsing words very carefully about whether it's a courtroom. There was no open courtroom. That's parsing words. Something happened. He knows it, and he's tracking it. So he's got plausible deniability. What I love about this cop is this is the difference between a seasoned and good interrogator and somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, because he's forcing him to play a game of go fish. Did you plead? Nope. Did you do this? Nope. Did you do that? And anybody who doesn't know what they're doing would automatically go to hard ass right here and go to bad cop. But he's smart and he plays it and just keeps slowly working him. It's beautiful to watch.
Okay, here's an idea that I'm just going to throw in. Given that he's helping minimize the crimes that he's not admitting to right now, is there a technical argument for maximizing the ones that he is admitting to? So when he goes, well, you could, I was arrested for, drunk driving, that you would maximize, do you think there's a psychological effect there? A serious question. Like, would that be worth doing?
Well, I think it depends. If I had Chase or one of you and you'd been to jail for something like that, yeah, for drunk driving, I could belittle you, say, you have children of your own. But if you don't have an amygdala in there functioning, you're like, yeah, so what? I paid my fee. I think this guy reminds me of the guy that David Scott interviewed with all the tattoos on his face, who was forgiven by God for all his horror. But this guy's forgiven by self, is what I think.
So it begs the question, does with this particular candidate, does minimizing the crime have any effect on him? Now, we know he's not completely, he understands something of the difference between crime and not crime, but does it have an effect?
It would, because he would mark that as something to watch out for. You know what I mean?
Right.
It may not bother him from a stress level, but he would be paying attention to that. Or there's a flag. And it would go up like these jagged things that he's looking for a flat plane to get through. Right. But he would see these jagged things that he needs to get around. So that might pose a problem for him and make him think about that more.
And I think it also tags in his brain that this isn't a crime. The detective is not referring to this as a horrific crime. So he's using this language. He must be viewing it this way in his head. It might be easier to talk about. But I think when it comes to his denial here, Mark, I would say this is pathological optimism.
Right.
So when somebody's like a super psychopath, they overestimate their ability to talk their way out of shit or believe. Man, I've said a lot of curse words. I usually do that on my own channel. Sorry. Or they think the interviewer's bluffing. This guy spent 50 years getting away with lies. And so this habit is wired so much deeper than some kind of rational risk assessment. So if the cops immediately produce this 1975 file, he instantly knows their preparation is weak. And he can keep stonewalling. If they produce it fast, he's lost nothing. And he'd have to, that he would have lost by just admitting it up front. So for the record, when he did his jail time, he was in what's called honor jail or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, where he just went in on weekends on his own.
Love it.
It was like the drunk guy, Otis, in Andy Griffith.
For DUI, you mean, when he's doing that? Yeah. But so the interesting piece for me, Mark, is your question's a good one, because it depends on the person. If the guy is the kind of psychopath who thinks he can smooth his way out of things, you attacking about that DUI would make him go, yeah, okay, he's going to smooth his way out. If he's the kind who comes back at you or shuts down, which I think this is a shut down and just deny it guy, he's just going to go, you're making a big deal out of something that's nothing in his own mind. He's already written off all this stuff. So I think you have to read the person. It depends on them. I don't see a guy here who responds to ridicule or critique. I see a
And what
guy.
I read, that 6
There's a
months
lockdown.
was for the assault. That 6 months of weekend come in on your own was for that assault.
Wow.
Well,
I
And
hadn't read that.
he was never officially disbanded from the Scouts.
Wow. That's a horror.
well, going back to Mark's thing and what you're talking about, Greg, if we were going to be pre-gaming this, if we were actually going to go in, one of us was going to say, okay, you're going to talk to him, whatever, and that question came up, let's say in that thing, that's a good question. That's actually a good point to make. But personally, I would say, don't make a big deal about that at all. I would just leave everything flat, like you're saying, Greg, because of that personality type which we know now. But pregame, you don't know what you're dealing with pretty much, most of the time.
Well, most of the time when you're going in to interrogate somebody you don't know, I mean, you're going to have to play it, Mark, a good call, because you might try that as a shot over the bow, see what kind of response you get and adjust. As I always say, one of the best ever mottos for one of the intelligence units I used to train was Semper Gumby, because you walk in the door with a plan and it goes out the window almost immediately in almost every interrogation.
Yeah.
This guy has done a great job of following one rule, and that is constricting bands. He's getting tighter and tighter and tighter and not making it personal. That's a big key with him, because if you start saying, hey, you're a scumbag for doing this to a kid, boom, you lost whatever rapport you thought you're going to get. And this guy's throwing out non-pertinent data that is going to bite him in the ass.
Yeah, he's not reacting to the crimes that the guy's putting
Exactly.
forward. He's doing a very good job of looking very non-judgmental and like, I'm just trying to get through the details.
I used to say I could talk to Manson as easy as a good humor guy.
Right.
The outcomes will be very different, but
Well, from an interrogation perspective, I don't think he's using, we see the parts of the read technique he's using, but he's doing it the way that I'm always saying. You don't have to follow that protocol every time. Maybe it's because he already knows the guy did it, and that's usually when you do use it. But in this case, I think he's trying to find out what else is going on in there. What else might have happened between that first case he's talking about and this one here, as he gets to the answers he wants in this one here. So we don't see him using different things outside of the bait question, which is working great for him. That's and he has the perfect opportunity and need for each time he uses that. Did you ever, or is there any reason your DNA would be here? Would there be any reason you would have been up in the hills there? Those kind of things. So I think he's using it sparingly and using it as a tool to create his own path to the goal.
directing. He's redirecting. Yep.
Yeah.
Putting the hedge up.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And I know you told me that you actually went to this girl's house. I'm not going to ask you, did you have sex with her?
Nope.
No? Do you remember?
Nope.
Okay.
I wish I could help you out, but
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm hoping that talking about this will bring back some of those memories. You don't recall having sex with her?
no.
Okay.
They can check DNA, I guess.
Yeah, possibly, right?
Yeah. Possibly. And I don't know.
Yeah. Right. So you don't recall, you're telling me you recall going to the house, but you don't recall if you had sex with her.
No, yeah.
Okay. And you recall talking to the police, but you
I
don't
don't
remember
remember
if you got
what you
arrested.
said. No, I was walked around all the time.
So you've never booked physically into a jail? Okay. And from that accusation, did you have to go to court?
Probably is what if it wasn't an open courtroom.
Okay. Did you ever have to plea to this accusation? Did you ever have to tell them, you pled not guilty,
Pleaded not guilty. I mean,
Okay.
through my attorney.
Okay.
I guess.
And what was the outcome of that accusation?
Don't know. I'm still walking around.
Yeah. So you never spent time in jail for that accusation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Spent time in jail for drunken driving once.
Okay.
But in Palo Alto.
Palo Alto. That's just like a night in jail,
Yeah,
right?
DUI.
Yeah. How long ago was that?
Oh, who knows?
Yeah. Okay.
Anything more than, let's say, 5 years ago, or I don't remember at all.
Okay. Does that bring back a memory at all? Picking up a hitchhiker? No. You mentioned the Stanford church again, the killing, the stabbing.
Yeah.
Did you? And you worked at Stanford. Did you ever?
Did I work at Stanford that time?
You said you worked at Stanford about
Yeah.
that time. Yeah.
No, I never.
Did you ever associate with the security guards at Stanford? No. Did you know a security guard named Stephen Crawford? No.
No.
Name doesn't sound familiar.
No.
Okay. Did you ever have interaction with security guards there?
No.
Okay. You didn't see them walking around? Or...
Oh, maybe I've seen them.
Okay.
If they were in plain clothes or in a uniform.
Sure.
But I never associated with them.
Okay. You're obviously familiar, and you mentioned it a little while ago. You're familiar with DNA, correct?
Yeah.
So there was a murder in the hills, west of Stanford. Again, I told you of a young lady. Would there be any reason for your DNA to be on her?
It'd have to be mighty slim.
Yeah.
But then I'm sure of that, because I was never up there.
You're never up in the hills?
Nope.
Okay.
Not near Stanford. Except, wait a minute, I was up near, there's a park in Palo Alto. It's a city-owned park.
Okay.
And I've been up there.
Where's that at? Do you know?
The what?
Do you know where it's at? Where it's located?
No, it's up in the hill someplace. I don't remember. It was 10 years ago or more.
Oh, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay. What about in the early 70s when you were living in Palo Alto?
No.
Did you ever go up into the hills?
Early 70s. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, that's early
No.
70s. No?
No,
Okay.
not. If I was up there, it would have been at the park with my wife and the kids.
Okay. Yeah.
Our kid.
Yeah.
That was
the
never.
daughter. Okay.
That's the only place that this side on this side of the hill. If you're going up Page Mill, it's right there off of Page Mill.
Okay.
I think where the hell is that entrance at?
All right, Chase, what do you got?
When somebody says there's a 0% chance of DNA being on somebody, that's one thing. When they say it would be a really slim chance, that's another planet. That is a whole nother solar system even. But this is a classic bait question. Is there any chance your DNA would be found on her at all? I'm paraphrasing, which is very good technique, very good form. He initially denies it and then backpedals to say slim chance. This is a major red flag. Then he's denying being up on the hills, then saying he was there all the time. In the same 30 seconds, I was never up there and I was there all the time with family. This is an admission, but he's trying to covertly say that every time I was up there, I was with a lot of people. Another massive red flag. That's all I got. Scott, what do you got?
All right. The detective at this point, he's literally sitting on the edge of his seat. He's so excited, he can't hardly stand it. That's what that looks like when somebody's that excited. And watch his hands. He can't leave his hands alone. He's so excited about this. I'm so excited for him. I'm so happy for him in this situation. It's translating to all of us. We can see that. We can't see his face, but man, we can see everything else happening there. So the concern expression is back on John's face now. So as this detective, as the noose gets tighter and tighter as he's moving in. So he says he doesn't know the security guards. Then he changes to being familiar with them. And so he's having to watch his step through here because he knows that any second now he could step on a landmine because that's where he is. He's in a field of landmines in there at this point because he's gotten through this other stuff. And the things that are supposed to be horrible apparently weren't very bad, he thinks. But now he's got other things he's got to watch out for. So he's not walking on eggshells. He's just watching his step as he goes through here. So again, this detective loves the bait question because it's working well for him. Every time he uses it, man, it's like dropping a bomb. He gets a whole bunch of information. So that's really, I think he's using it the way he should. He's not using it sparingly, that's for sure. But you use it when you need to use it in your style of interrogation if you're going to use the read technique. So I think he's doing really good. Now, when they're talking about the park, his regulators go crazy when he puts his hand out. He's keeping him from talking while he's thinking. In other words, it looks like he's trying to hypnotize him, but and that's his way of saying, hang on a second, I'm thinking. But for some reason, he can't connect that right and say, well, like, I don't know, like, well, yeah, like normal people would, so they're saying, hang on just a second, or something like that. He's doing all these things with his hand. So I guess that's his wait a minute way to say, hang on just a second, wait a minute, like there. And then a little further on, in the discussion, he's back to that head stress reliever situation again. Again, he's probably venting, getting rid of some heat and stretching a little bit. I think that's, in a nutshell, without sucking it all up, I'll leave it there. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, I think the reason you see all that high stress go through the roof is one simple thing. 30 minutes ago, he didn't know where Page Mill Road was. He just used the word Page Mill Road and Old Page Mill Road and described exactly the location that where this thing's supposed to have occurred. So I started watching because I see how excited the cop got. I looked at what was going on and watching him scramble to try to get his information and try to hold on. And you could see his brain's working overtime. You can see it. I mean, you can see the wheels turning. And so I said, how did they break this case? Guess how they broke this case? Not altogether, but this piece of testimony has guilty knowledge in it. Because he said, and I heard the word and never put it all together until I went and started looking. The other side. What he's saying is, I never went to the side where you found that body. I was on the other side. Boom. What an idiot. I mean, he just put himself in that position by trying to outthink this guy and by talking and saying what his brain was thinking. And Scott, I think you are dead on when he's doing this. He's trying to say, give me a minute. I need to recover from this thing I just did. So this is a beautiful example of what we call guilty knowledge and how you know you're not getting a false confession because you don't feed them where the body was found. You simply ask enough questions until they tell you something. And he chose the wrong, non-pertinent information and just threw it all out there. So here we are. He got himself in a bind. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, that's a nice catch there because look, clearly the situation is hot for him. And here's why I would say that is we're getting, for me, the most audible sound from him scratching the table there. And I actually, though you guys had picked it up and certainly Scott had picked it up, I didn't really hear that scratching throughout most of the rest of it. Here it's way, way louder for me. And so I think it's super hot at this point. And listen, I love this thing about the DNA, and because really the answer should be no. There's no reason the DNA would be there, and that's this thing about probability and possibility, And really, in that state of the pressure of talking about somebody's being murdered, you're going to go you're going to stay out of possibility and just go for probability, or just like no and yes and no. Yeah, there's a reason why the DNA would be there. No, there isn't. And I'm just going to say this because it went through my mind. I thought, what is my best illustration of that? And so I was thinking to myself, well, it's like. And by the way, I'm about to blow my illustration out the water, which for me was quite funny. Because I thought to myself, well, if you said to me, hey, Mark, is there any reason why your DNA would be in Chase's house right now? I would go, well, no. I mean, it's possible, but it's not probable because I've never been to that house. And look, such a long time has passed between Chase and I having seen each other. I mean, literally months and months and months and months and months. It's just really, and I was going and I would just bet everything that it's not. And then I saw the picture, the framed object that Chase has behind him. And in that framed object is a napkin from a restaurant that I have touched. And I just went, don't. That's my DNA all over it. So it's a good job I didn't make that bet. Good job I didn't make that bet because I wouldn't have won that one. Anyway, that's all I got on that.
And the only reason I framed it is because you touched it.
That's right. That is very, very valuable now. Very, very valuable.
So sweet.
Hey, can I add something?
Yeah.
If you've been here this long with us this week, you're really going to like the next episode of this because this guy gets in a hell of a lot deeper than he is here. If you thought he couldn't do worse, just watch.
Well,
We're going to do
excited.
another episode. We're going to do another episode that's a lot worse than this.
This is the most excited I've ever seen you on a show, Mark.
Yeah, I am.
Can't get nothing.
Because that was lunacy. What we just saw there was like lunacy. If it gets better than that, I'm on for it.
It does.
Does that bring back a memory at all? Picking up a hitchhiker? No. You mentioned the Stanford church again, the killing, the stabbing.
Yeah.
Did you? And you worked at Stanford. Did you ever?
Did I work at Stanford that time?
You said you worked at Stanford about
Yeah.
that time. Yeah.
No, I never.
Did you ever associate with the security guards at Stanford? No. Did you know a security guard named Stephen Crawford? No.
No.
Name doesn't sound familiar.
No.
Okay. Did you ever have interaction with security guards there?
No.
Okay. You didn't see them walking around? Or...
Oh, maybe I've seen them.
Okay.
If they were in plain clothes or in a uniform.
Sure.
But I never associated with them.
Okay. You're obviously familiar, you mentioned it a little while ago, you're familiar with DNA, correct?
Yeah.
So there was a murder in the hills west of Stanford. Again, I told you of a young lady. Would there be any reason for your DNA to be on her?
It'd have to be mighty slim.
Yeah.
But then I'm sure of that because I was never up there.
You're never up in the hills?
Nope.
Okay.
Not near Stanford. Except, wait a minute, I was up near, there's a park in Palo Alto. It's a city-owned park.
Okay.
And I've been up there.
Where's that? Do you know?
The what?
Do you know where it's at? Where it's located?
No, it's up in the hill someplace. I don't remember. It was 10 years ago or more.
Oh, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay. What about in the early 70s when you were living in Palo Alto?
No.
Did you ever go up into the hills?
Early 70s. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, that's early
No.
70s. No?
No,
Okay.
not. If I was up there, it would have been at the park with my wife and the kids.
Okay.
Yeah. Our kid.
Yeah.
That was
The
never.
daughter. Okay.
That's the only place that this side on this side of the hill. If you're going up Page Mill, it's right there off of Page Mill.
Okay.
I think where the hell is that entrance at?
All right. Needless to say, Mark, this is one of your favorites so far, but how's it looking to you so far?
Yeah, I'll tell you why it is, actually, and maybe I haven't talked about it enough, but it's Cortez, the interviewer here, isn't it? Greg, did you say Cortez?
Yep.
Certainly in my top 10 of interviewers, I think possibly in my top 5. I mean, he's up there. I love his style. And of course, there's all kinds of positives and negatives you can say about this. But like as a good general rule, I think it's a really lovely style that he's got here. And for that reason, I'm super fascinated about seeing what happens in this interrogation and where this actually goes for him, because I like what he's doing here. Chase, what are your thoughts?
If you have kids or maybe grandkids that are under 10, please, I beg you, teach them that if a grown-up ever asks you to keep a secret, that you should be terrified and scared and you need to find someone quickly. And almost, unless it's a birthday present or something, you need to be very scared. No grown-up should ever ask you to keep a secret, ever. And if they're over 10, you need to teach them, if someone ever makes a compliment or even a comment about your body, you need to teach those kids how to be very silent and look that grown-up dead in the eyes without saying anything. And shut that behavior completely off and make it as awkward as possible. Without saying anything, you're not calling them names, just looking at them, making very direct eye contact after that weird, stupid compliment. He's a piece of shit psychopath. That's all I got. Greg?
Yeah, I think the people he murdered, we don't know how many people this guy probably murdered. What he was convicted of were 2 young women in their 20s and a child. And at different times in his life. But what we do know is this guy was able to hide right in plain sight. He was hiding right among other people. And your point, you go home and cook dinner and do whatever. The big deal here is to pay attention. And don't ever put yourself in harm's way because a person looks trustworthy. I mean, Ted Bundy killed how many people because he looked trustworthy? Never trust somebody because they look. He looks like somebody's uncle. Well, plenty of crazy old uncles out there. So pay attention to this. And the part, Mark, I echo exactly what you said. Loved this interrogation. This is a beautiful example of knowing when to nudge and when to back up, letting the guy know where the limits are, but pushing just enough and not playing your hand when he does that first big stumble. Because we're going to look at this again, and we're halfway through this interrogation at this point. He's already gotten this guy to take a big hook in his mouth. Just wait. Scott, what do you got?
I really like this one because we're seeing an interrogation where the detective is going to go. This is going to be one of the stories he tells. You know, it's going to start off. I had this one guy. That's the way those things start off. I got one. That's the way it'll go, and they'll talk about that. You know, and they'll say, Cortez, tell him about the bald guy. Tell him about the guy. Tell him about the guy. It'll go like that. So I like this because he's excited about it, and he's doing such a great job. Yep. And this is, I'm sure, you could take this out and use it for training and say, here's a great example of how you do this. Here's a great example of how you do that. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if this guy's in charge of some kind of training or something because he does it so well. And again, he doesn't follow the protocol, going right down the thing and doing everything you're supposed to do, or, you know, in the chain of events you're supposed to do with in the read technique. He's using it the way you're supposed, in my opinion, the way you're supposed to for a situation like this. You know, you see it as, like I always refer to it as a muscle car. You've got all these things you can stick on it, but you can put anything on it you want. Big tires, those little chain steering wheels, and paint flames on the side, and those big things on the front, Greg, that suck in air. What's that called?
Intake. I call them a supercharger on my car, but you might call them a scoop.
And that fin thing on the back. And so that's what this guy's done. He's got his own. He's cruising around in his own setup, and it's working for him. It's great. So you can always tell who's the seasoned pro compared to people who are into it. They're about halfway through their career, and they're just letting it go and following the protocol and all that. This guy does a great job being creative with it, I think.
And he's excited.
Oh, he can't hardly stand it.
That contributes to so much of his success, I think.
Yeah.
He's genuinely invested in this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, which I know. I got excited for him. I'm happy for him. You know,
when we got this video, I loved it. I turned on. I was like, we're going to have to do a good job of this one. So we're launching it early for that very reason.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, fellas. Thanks for another good one, and I'll see you next time.